Sympathetic crying, a Santa Claus scuffle, and Scrooge Jones. That's right. It's episode 9 of season 3 for this podcast and a psych, and it starts right now.
I've heard it both ways.
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 And welcome back to I've Heard It Both Ways. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. Riding in the Blueberry with me, as always, is my partner in crime, Mr. Buttery Goodness.
All right, sweet buttery goodness. You know I crave it.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. Rough start for me on the open there, but we're into it. We're going.
Yeah, I was trying to rhyme Billy and Buttery Goodness, and last second I was afraid that if I said Billy Buttery Goodness, I would have fucked it up, and then I botched it anyway. So, how you doing, buddy?
You know what? We're here to talk a Christmas classic in October. So it's a little odd, but we get a little Halloween theming at the beginning of the episode anyways. So we're in the spirit no matter what.
Yeah, Christmas in October, baby. I mean the shit's already up, you know. The Christmas shit's already up at the stores. So I mean, tis the season, right? Mm-hmm. So we are talking Psych season 9, season 3, episode 9, Christmas Joy. Billy, we are off to a hot start. Why don't you tell the people of our about our process? You know, it's been a week, Billy. It's been a week.
It's been a week for all of us, probably. So hopefully you're here to enjoy us. But it starts with the holla, it ends with the creamsicle, and if there's time in between, a little Thundercats.
Oh,
I nailed it! I nailed it this week.
Only place to go from here, Billy, is up. So
maybe
we might as well hit rock bottom now, and then just shoot like a fucking rocket right to the top from here. So, quick thoughts before we get started. Was this episode better than you remembered, Billy?
No. It's good. I like it. But it's not one of my favorites. This is one I oft skip. It was a little funny how much I remembered because I've only probably seen it for a psych episode. That's thin for me 5 to 6 times.
Yep. Yeah, I haven't watched this one a ton either. And, you know, it's good. It's good. I gotta change my rating because I forgot to change that from last week. So when we get to the rating part, I gotta bring it down from what it states. But it's about the same for me. You know, it's a themed episode. There's some good elements to it. I think some of the side components, you know, are pretty good. You know, but overall, again, not a ton of yucks, not a ton of references. A lot more again on the physical comedy, which they really seem to lean into, you know, this episode. So for me, meaty part of the curve. You know, when we go to rank this, it's going to be right there in the middle.
Yeah, it'll probably be bottom half.
Lower.
Okay. This is bottom of the barrel right now for me. This is probably the last one I'd have ranked.
Oh, really? This is not the worst one I would have ranked, but yeah, you're probably like meaty part of the curve. So it's that middle skewing towards the back half, especially it's going to get pushed that way as we start to progress through the rest of the season here. So we have a couple of guest stars, one returning guest star, Gus's mother, Felicia Rashad. But we have a recast here. Billy, tell the fine people who we chose for the standout guest star.
Yeah, it's no longer the fourth Ghostbuster. It is Keith David, Mr. Guster, and he is more of a voice actor, but when he shows up in stuff, he's damn good. I remember him replacing basically 3 different archetypal characters in Community. He's the president in Rick and Morty, and he does a phenomenal job there. Princess and the Frog, he's the villain voice, I believe.
Yep.
Armageddon, Roadhouse. So if you know him, you see him. He's a very charismatic looking man. Yeah. And you know what? I just like the original Mr. Guster, but he does a good job.
Yeah, you know, the original Mr. Guster, I think, fit with the Guster mold a little bit more. But Keith David, that's an odd name. The 2 first names thing always throws me off.
Never trust a man with 2 first names.
Exactly, right. But he did a good job, especially in that scene, you know, towards the end, which we'll get into, where they're all kind of fighting with each other. But yeah,
I like when he's trying to bob and weave Sean's psychic and entrancement there.
Yeah, that felt actually very Gus-like. That seems like something Gus would do. So they did kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit there, but
we didn't get we hear you, son. We hear you.
Yeah,
that was the best.
Yeah, that was the best. You know, so good job. You know, but anyways, What is the case about in this episode? This is actually one of the things I think this episode did pretty well. We'll get into that, where you read the synopsis and then the show takes a bit of a turn here. And I thought that was probably where the show excelled the most. But a little girl asks Shawn and Gus to help get Santa out of jail. They get Santa out, then realize Santa and the girl are con men planning a big heist. Gus's sister Joy is in town, and she wants to and she wants to see Shawn romantically again. So, like, that's the biggest takeaway from this episode
Mm-hmm.
is Gus's sister. It's the only time we see her. We get one other reference to her, and I gotta say, she's a firecracker, Billy.
Oh yeah, she's a hottie.
Yeah,
Very 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 attractive lady, and I don't know. I don't know if I ever pictured Gus's sister in my head before this, so you could have made her whatever you wanted, and it was a pretty good fit.
yeah.
I don't know. She seems a little bit too put together to be a Guster, but she's good.
Yeah, she had those Gus elements though, right? Where she had the random facts off the top of her head, and but she wasn't as she didn't lean into the Guster, if you will. She did a lot of leaning into Shawn, however.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
all over him
right.
instantly. That was. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. She was like a feral cat. She pounced, baby. So, cold open. It's Christmas Day, and I love this cold open. It was fun. It was Christmas Day. Little Sean's coming down the stairs. You can hear sort of Henry banging around as every dad does. On Christmas morning, you're putting shit together last minute, and he's sitting there. He's trying to put Sean's bike together, and obviously Sean came down too early. But what I love about this is that Henry still can't help himself. He made a little Christmas crime scene.
Yeah, you gotta solve a case.
Yeah, gonna solve a case. The case is fucking obvious, but the
Yeah.
fact that Henry took the time to actually make the footprints, to still kind of hold on to that like little bit of Christmas magic that I know one day I'm gonna lose with Swaggins,
Mm.
but right now she's still like
Oh yeah, you got a while.
she's like the prime age for it. Side note, we started doing this thing where I get like maybe a dozen like little trinkets,
Mhm.
little squishies or little, and I wrap them up individually because Violet loves like a scavenger hunt. And so I
Aw.
hide these things around the first floor of the house and tell her that the tricksy elves hid these things. So she goes around, she's got to find them. And that kills some time before they dive right into the gifts. So I've got that for a couple more years, and then she's going to wise up. And so yeah, I get wanting to hold on to that Christmas magic a little bit, little sappy moment here from Doc about Christmas. But that's what Christmas does. It brings out the sap, baby.
Yeah.
But the episode starts, and I love this. Sean's got a box of goodies.
Yeah, he's decorated. He's trying to decorate the office, and he even decorated their old Halloween stuff to look like Christmas stuff, which I
Yeah.
actually kind of like.
I love that he pulled out the picture frame from the lodge,
Mhm.
from the dislodged episode, and he's got the two little pumpkins with Christmas hats on them, and so like it was, it's just we could tell this is going to be a fun episode. It's not going to get too heavy, at least you think. Which is again, we'll harp on this a bit. Where I think the episode really, that was like the one sort of thing where the episode did really well was
Mhm.
that swerve that it takes. So they're sitting there and they're kind of trying to decorate the office, and then we get this what you think is a cute little girl. Her name is Brittany. She comes in to the office asking for Mr. Psych, and she wants to help the guys free Santa, but she only has $1.38.
I love that,
You know?
and the way Sean retorts it too. We couldn't possibly accept that. What else
Yeah.
you got?
Yeah, right. And then she says, why, Santa, where Santa is, he's in jail. And I love Sean, retorting with, well, I'm sure the North Pole has plenty of public defenders, which was great. But man, this little broad really lays it on thick, right? Just with the tears. She's a smarmy little brat, right?
Yeah, all right. That's a nice way of phrasing it.
Yeah.
She does play the character well though, because you're kind of supposed to smell a little bit of stink on her that she
Yeah.
might not be on the up and up, even from like the word go, because she's not like what you would normally cast. She's a little older, doesn't have the chubby face, so she's not your typical cute kid actor. So they do kind of get them in a way on the case here with her, little song and dance there.
Yeah, because she starts crying, and then Scrooge Jones,
Sympathetic
Gus,
crier, of course.
we see him cry sympathetically a few times in this episode. So Gus takes the case because he falls for it, and so that's how the episode kicks off, and then we get to the Gusters, and this is where we meet Joy, Gus's sister. And man, as I wrote in the notes, hubba hubba, she is just, and not to be crass, but she is just a beautiful woman.
Oh yeah,
right. Gus's sister brings the heat. This is what I love about Let's Do Up Again, when Urkel and Kenan Thompson find out that Shawn, had a thing. They're like, what? You slept with
they're all
Shawn's
dapping him
sister?
up.
And yeah, I love that moment because you can see the look on Gus's face. He's like, and
there's another moment in the I think it's the taco truck episode where you slept with my sister Shawn. He's like, why do you keep bringing that up? You know it upsets you. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't, because it was awesome. So they do reference it a few more times throughout the show.
Yeah, which is absolutely great, because that, I think, was probably the biggest comedy from this episode. Was we get right away, because we talked about it just a second ago, where Joy is a feral cat. We learned that Shawn and Joy hooked up about 10 years ago, and she is just attracted to him like catnip. She can't keep her hands off. They start going out, but they got to be careful about it. And throughout the entire episode, you've got Gus just being overprotective of his older sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so like what it does is that you see this buildup of Gus just getting angry and angry and angry and angrier throughout the episode, of like people oogling his sister, and that when the big reveal happens at the end, when she comes clean, that sort of set up that it's actually perfect the way that this little storyline plays out. And I mean, that was probably the best part of the episode, was that whole dynamic. But they go straight to kissing, and then we get this isn't our first themed song, is it? Like
I don't believe so. I think we had one before this.
Oh yeah, Lights Camera Homisadio,
Spanish one for that one. Yeah.
So it's a nice little Christmas theme, to the song here, which is always nice when they do that. So now we go to the station, and so Shawn and Gus are actually looking into the case for the little girl. Santa is being held at the Santa Barbara a police station there, and I love this little scene here with Chief Vic, Shawn, Gus, and Joy, because they bring her along, and Vic is like,
she's kind of mean. She's like, what are you doing here? You can't have guests, and guests certainly can't have guests. And right. I just want to see what they do. Yeah. And she has a great line.
Oh yeah, what does she say? She says,
you ever seen a movie about high school?
Yeah,
that's pretty much them.
Yeah. Which is perfect. That is the perfect encapsulation of Shawn and Gus.
A
high school movie, right? So
Lasky references it one time. I'm not fooled by the fact that you've learned to feed yourself, clothe yourselves, and master the rudimentary skills of like talking to each other. Right, I see you for what you are, children. But yeah, so she kind of calls them out there, but then we get to the crux of the case in the cells downstairs.
Yeah, excuse me. So they're down there. So Jules brings him down to the cell, and I love this little sight gag here, where there's a guy that actually looks like Santa. It looks like Crashmore.
Mm-hmm. Absolute bullshit.
It's just why nobody watches AOL Blast. So Shawn starts talking to the guy he thinks is Santa, but it's not him. He moves out of the way, and then we meet the real Santa Claus. What he looks like a scumbag. Just
longer haired Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah, and he clearly has visible signs that he got the shit kicked out of him. And so Shawn's just sort of scanning the cell, and he sees another guy that was pulled from the scene as well, and he's got a bracelet that has some writing on it. And Shawn goes, Gus, this Santa, he wasn't the attacker. He was attacked. He just got defensive wounds on him. Look at the other guy. He's got cuts on his knuckles and things like that. And he goes, what does he say? He goes, Shawn notices that the other guy, he's like, he does Krav Maga. And he goes, how do you know that? Well, look at his bracelet. And I love this. Gus goes, since when can you read Hebrew?
Working at that Hasidic deli. Those were good times.
Yeah. Shlomo. You know, just another case of Shawn working an odd job. You know that
Always pays off.
that running out. Yeah. So you see the guy, with the bracelet on there. So obviously he was the one that was kicking some ass. They're able to get Santa out because he convinced Jules, hey, listen, this guy wasn't actually. He didn't knock the guy out. He didn't give the guy. What happened was Santa was being accused of knocking some guy out at Santa's village. But it wasn't him. It was Mr. Krav Maga. So they let Santa go. And I love this little scene, this little visual gag where Shawn just goes, we just saved Christmas. And he start doing the Charlie Brown dance. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty nice, but then you kind of get a couple of things here. Is it right after this that we find out? No, it's a little bit later we find out the girl's a jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, we get Creepy Lassie first.
We get Creepy Lassie first, who has a thing apparently for sisters. And then Gus returns the favor in a later season where he has a thing for his sister, and that's awfully creepy as well in one of my favorite episodes. But you get Creepy Lassie here, and Gus is a little bit over the top because he starts with what is the sentence for assaulting an officer?
Yeah, he goes because Lassie's like leaning into Joy. He's got his arm around her. He's talking cop stuff, and
It wasn't too creepy though.
No, it wasn't too creepy, but it's Lassie. We all know. And he goes, what do you say? He goes, what's the charge for assaulting a police officer? And what is it with you and people's sisters? First Chief Vic, now my sister. So that was just a great little callback, great little line there. We find out that Joy is older, right? Where he says, Gus, why are you so protective of her? She's older than you, sort of thing. And so we get that little scene, and then they're outside the police station now, and this is where the camera pans away. We see Santa and the little girl Brittany, and she's fucking laying into him.
Oh yeah, she's like she sounds like an adult. She's giving it to him.
Yeah.
Gus goes, she's a little con artist.
Yeah. So now we've got this is
I bet she had more than that $1.38 too.
Yeah.
It's like what is it, the South Park thing? What did Bigfoot ask for? About $3.50.
About $3.50. Yeah. So this is where we get. This is, I think, something that the last episode did, where you knew sort of who the criminals were right off the shoot.
A little bit.
So you're looking at, okay, they're con artists. Now we got to look into them because something's not right here. And so, like, the payoff to this story, I thought was really good. And so we find out that they're con artists. So Shawn and Gus decide to do some sleuthing. We go to Santa's village where Santa's working, and Shawn and Gus start to, they confront Santa, and Brittany's sitting there. And I tell you, she really lets her true color shine her, because she, as I said before, she's a smarmy little brat.
She's vicious, yeah.
So like Shawn's looking at her. He knows they're con artists. She's playing a handheld video game. He goes, "What blind kid you steal that from?" Why would a blind kid play video games? Oh, she's a smug prick. I hate to say it about a child, but she plays a character perfectly,
Well, a blind kid bought baseball cards and an old bird in Dumb and Dumber. So.
Yeah. Pretty bird. So, but like I will say, like that actress, she played that role.
Does a great job. Oh, that's what you need.
Absolutely fantastic. So, as they're sort of interrogating Shawn's like, I know the jig is up, and we find out that they have something cooking up that's going to take place about 3 days from now. And, they, because like they're being confronted, they do what con artists do, and they able to weasel their way out of the situation where Santa just starts like, oh, help me.
Yeah, the classic fake a heart attack, or, I'm being attacked. So it's a good move by him. He gets out of it. He's weaselly, so they get thrown out.
And she starts crying.
Yeah.
She does the whole fucking crying thing again, right? So they get thrown out. And I love this because what does Gus say here? He's like, yeah, it's the first time I've ever been thrown out of Santa's village.
Kicked out of the Salvation Army, dishonorably discharged.
Actually. Yeah, and then I like Shawn when his reply was, "You get used to it."
You get used to it.
Like he's been kicked out, many a time. So we get a little montage here next. We're at the Gusters, and this classic little trope.
I do really like the setup for this is when they're leaving the police station. You get the nice, Shawn takes in a stray cat, and I don't know how she gave the whole building fleas, and then they both at the exact time say, and this is how they play into the Guster factor
Yeah,
in
that's right.
Sister Joy. They both go, well, an adult female flea can blah 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 blah. They both rattle off the stat at the exact time, and Shawn's kind of pissed.
Yeah, he goes, "Oh, that's scary." Yeah, which and that happens a couple of times, in this episode. But yeah, so they go back to the Gusters, and so Shawn can't sleep at his place because the fleas. So Joy is more than happy to have Shawn sleep at their house, and so it's nighttime. She's got a little nightie on, and this is where they do that fun trope with the music playing, and they're all going, entering different doors at different times, and just meeting each other. So this actually went on a little bit longer than it
Yeah,
probably should have.
it was a little too long. You get the Eartha Kitt Santa Baby, which I liked, but
Yeah.
it was a little like you kind of needed like the fast editing on this, and they kind of let the whole thing play out. So to me, it was a little overdone. I do, like that Shawn got up and wanted to initiate the contact too to play into the thing a little bit more, but I didn't. The execution wasn't overall great.
Yeah, it was a fun idea, and but it went on just a smidge too long. But what it did do was it set up a little side story for the episode where Shawn is sneaking through the Guster's house. He winds up in the garage and he finds a little set. It's a TV. There's a couple of chairs. There's a lamp, and just as he's looking around, Mr. Guster walks in when he's supposed to be working the overnight shift. And this is where we find out that Mr. Guster lost his job a month ago, and so during the day, he's been, out job searching. And then at night, he has been going to the movies and then sneaking back into the house because he's a bit embarrassed. He's a little too proud. And because it's so close to Christmas, he didn't want to, let the family down or anything like that. So, Shawn's entrusted this episode with at least one Guster family secret. I think the second Guster family secret that we learn is the best.
Oh, it's amazing. I fucking love it.
Which is absolutely tremendous. So the guys go back to Santa's village, but this time they bring Joy with them to do some undercover work. And I gotta tell you, Joy is an elf.
Fantastic. Yep.
Yeah,
she was great in that little Santa outfit, and this is where we get, I believe, for the second time, maybe first or second time, Shawn sneaking a peek as she walks away.
Two times this is the first time. And so I love this because she's walking away and it's a nice outfit. And Shawn's, he's just kind of doing a little thing that, we do from time to time because, we're pigs. And he gives a little peek. And I love that. Gus goes, "What the heck you looking at, Shawn?"
Look how cute that little snowman is.
Yeah. Yeah,
I hear
that's
that.
right. Oh, I hear that. Right?
I hear that.
And then the second time he does it, same. "What the heck you looking at?" He goes, "That wreath over there. It's beautiful." I hear that. So that was just a funny little gag because it's it was very clear what Shawn was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's almost as if Gus was just burying his head in the sand because he was so quick and so ready to believe.
Well, you kind of assume your best friend's probably not going to be shtipping your sister, especially if they don't make it public.
If your sister's hot, you got to assume that all your friends are scumbags, and you got to assume the worst in all of them.
You know what? That's fair. I think I had okay friends, so
Yeah, right. Yeah, you just always assume the worst, and be ready to hit one of them at any given time. But
that's fair.
You'll work it out afterwards. But if he, the person committing the crime deserves a hit, he's got to accept it. That's how I would view it. Thankfully, I don't have a sister, so I never had to deal with that.
Well, I have an older sister, so unlike Gus, I didn't really need to be protective.
Right. So, while they're at Santa's village, when Joy's applying for the elf gig, Shawn's able to kind of sneak a peek at the employment info, and he sees, we find out that Santa's name is Carl, and his contact is, he puts in a contact as Theodore. I wrote this down. I paused it so I could write the name now. Theodore Meltriger. And so we figure out, okay, that's got to be his accomplice because when Shawn got the boot when Shawn Gus got the boot the first time, they were booted by a security guard named Ted. So Carl's working an angle. He's got an inside guy, Ted. And so we get that little bit of info here. And Let's see.
You get
And
a
so
nice
we
classic con here out of the Santa that Joy kind
yes,
of finds
exactly.
out, but she thinks he's on the up and up because it's one of those, oh, he's a really good Santa. He asks the
Yep.
kids what they want, where they're going for Christmas, whose relatives they're visiting. It's kind of like the two Home Alone guys going around and finding out where everybody's going to be going for the holidays. So it's a classic kind of grift setup to figure out, all right, when can I rob these fucking people?
Yeah, which is great because because by asking the kids, are you visiting relatives?
Mhm.
The ones they are, they can cross reference that with the list, with the
And they get their
addresses.
addresses for the photos.
Right, exactly. So it's like, okay, this is actually a pretty good, very believable con, and grift going on here. So we get Gus catching Shawn checking out his sister again. So they all come back at night. Shawn brings Lassie and Jules with them because they think they're going to catch Carl red-handed, but they get there isn't a sign of anyone. Place is empty. So Lassie and Jules like, thanks for wasting our time. They take off. Joy's like, maybe you aren't so psychic. And I love this little sight gag here where we're looking at the mangers. And I love Gus says, what's up with the wise men? Yeah, as usual, they forgot to make one of the wise men black. And then we get Joy here with a classic Guster response.
I lost my place here.
Oh, because I thought everyone knew about Balthazar.
Yeah. I also do like how when Sean's going through at the end of the night to talk to, and he bumps into Gus's dad, they zoom in on the Black Wiseman on
Yeah,
the statue up there
yeah,
on the mantle.
yeah, which is great. So Sean walks up because something's a little odd about one of the wise men.
Mm-hmm.
He walks up to it, sort of like touches his face, and he falls over.
It's a dead guy.
And it's a dead guy. It's a real dead guy. It's Ted, right? So now, like, okay, now we've gone from this is the swerve that I mentioned a few times. This is where the episode I think gets good. Like, not that it wasn't good before, but like, okay, now we got some meat on the bone here because now it's not just a simple, pretty obvious con job, episode. Now there's a murder. There's some unknowns that we don't have yet, and the shift focus is now to Carl not just as a con man, but as a murderer. So we go to the station. Vic, wants to amp up the investigation. They get Carl locked up in the jail cell. Little girl sitting with DSS. So things are getting pretty serious. But Carl will only talk to Shawn here, and he's pretty adamant, Billy, that he didn't kill him.
No, and that's the main thing that kind of Sean figures out through this whole thing, that they weren't violent guys. They were thieves. We see that a lot in these kind of episodes that, thieves will, steal from thieves, do the things that thieves do. But these guys weren't violent guys. So Sean kind of puts two and two together that kerfuffle earlier may have had something to do with this as well.
Yeah. So Sean, I think, starts to deduce that maybe there's a third accomplice here. Something doesn't quite feel right. And what Carl tells the guys here is like, listen, we're not violent guys, we just rob, and but we were 10 grand in debt to a local bookie. So now you're thinking, okay, maybe the third guy that's involved here is the bookie. Maybe he's the guys couldn't pay, so he's going to start whacking him. So
great CD bookie, by the way.
Oh, tremendous CD bookie. And so we have a potential new suspect now. So they head to the bar, one of the known bars that this Frank the bookie works at. And I mean, this is a good little scene because Sean sort of confronts him, and the guy's like, why am I going to kill someone that owes me money?
Classic bookie thing. This is, touted in gangster movies and whatnot.
Yeah.
You don't kill a guy who owes you money. You break his thumbs, you break his legs, you kneecap him, whatever you got to do. So he'll pay, but dead man pay no debts.
Yeah, you put his head in a vice grip, maybe make one of his eyeballs pop out.
Oh God, that's
that was. You had to have seen Casino, right?
That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I remember the first time I watched that. I mean, that movie came out, I think, Billy, when we were like teenagers, maybe. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing that for the first time, going, "That's the dude from Home Alone. What the fuck is going on here?"
Oh yeah.
And I think that was like my first foray into Joe Pesci and like gangsters, because I hadn't seen Goodfellas yet. So
yeah. I just always remember the scene where he's yelling at the blackjack dealer, and a couple of my friends have kind of done that in a Vegas casino. So it's always a good one. But you kind of get it's a good trope Shawn should have kind of known it, but it does help you move the plot along a little bit. And then you get my favorite scene of the entire episode.
Yeah,
Is you got Mrs. Huxtable coming on in to pay the piper.
yeah. This was absolutely tremendous because she's got a thick envelope she's
She
handing
spent
over.
the Christmas money, and
And
they put $100 in the fucking socks.
yeah, which is actually maybe my favorite part of the episode when Gus goes into the sock and there's no money in it because he's always like, I don't need it, and he's no money.
I was counting on that.
Which I gets me every time. But the job that Felicia Rashad here does, like explaining to Shawn and Gus how she got mixed up with Frank and
Oh, and she's great. Yeah, she's fan. She hits it out of the park, and like a guy at what is it? Like somebody at work's nephew runs this like gambling website, and he's good money, and she's betting on games. And then we also get in a later episode, I think it's the Seas episode, where I think that Shawn mentions that we all know your mom's playing the underground poker circuit.
Yeah.
What happens if she loses all her money to Ronan the Crippler?
That's right.
On Pocket Ducks.
Oh, absolutely tremendous. I love that they gave her, her character that little song. Even though I think this is the last time we see her, but or maybe not. I can't remember, but I just love that that extra layer because she just does it perfectly, and it's just she's so mousy with it, right? And just the face, it's like, Mrs. Huxtable, no, what are you doing? So we're back at the Gusters, and this is probably like the scene of the episode where they're all sitting around the table and they're about to, they're in the living room and they're exchanging gifts, and Gus's mom comes clean about the gambling because this is where Gus and Joy went into their stockings and there was no Christmas money, and Gus says, "Where's my money?" And she comes clean. She says, "I gambled it away."
It's a great setup. It's great writing all over the place too, because you get the swerve of everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
They're talking about how Shawn was so helpful to the both of them and what to do and how to come clean. And then all of a sudden, like, they're like, come on, get in. Like, they're all rejoicing. We found out that Mr. Guster lost his job. They spent all the Christmas money. They don't care. And then Joy is like, I got something to say too. And then that just blows the lid off of everything because she admits to having a fling with Shawn. Nobody was happy.
No. I mean, especially Gus. I mean, you were expecting Gus, you just saw it coming a mile away. And Shawn's like, no, don't do it. And she does it. And the look on Gus's face, the look on their parents' face, and then like everything had come together and then had just fallen apart, so
quickly,
beautifully and quickly. It was just like chaos because Mr. Guster he starts laying into Winnie Huxtable, gambler, and she lays into him about losing his job. Like, it gets personal and it gets heated and contentious, and then Gus just he goes,
who loses a job that they've had for 35 years?
Yeah. Where's the Gus saying he's like, I'm the only one that has a right to be mad here. Everyone's been lying to me. And then him and his sister get into it, and it was just like an absolute epic collapse. And I love what happens next here because they go, Shawn's at Henry's, and Shawn just tells him, he goes, God, I don't know, I really screwed up, Dad. I think I ruined Christmas for the Gusters. And Henry just laughs. He goes, what'd you do this time?
Yeah, and then he tells him what he did. Yeah.
And Henry's like, well, that's you were a bad partner, buddy. He's not just your best friend, he's your partner, and you don't treat your partners that way. And then Shawn has an epiphany here.
Yeah, he figures out that they had a third partner, and he actually now goes to the station with Jules, where they share a little bit of an awkward moment too, because he tells her what he did as well, and he's like, yeah, I hooked up with Gus's sister, and she's kind of appalled. And he also goes, well, that was way before I knew you. Why does that matter? So you get a cute little Christmas back and forth thing, which we kind of like there. But as always, right as they're kind of getting into it, they stumble upon the third partner, who they realize was the guy that the Krav Maga guy knocked out, because he went to go beat up Santa because that was his partner that went wrong.
Yeah. So we learned that the guy's name is Moncrief Johnson. And this is where Jules, I recognize that name. I recognize that name. And so it turns out that 10 years ago, Carl and Ted had turned state's witness against their third partner because their crimes went from simple, or detailed con jobs to getting a little bit more violent. And it was because of the third partner. He started,
Yeah.
killing people.
Yeah.
So they turned him in.
Also, you get a really good reference from Jules here where she goes, I just thought Moncrief Johnson was the black quarterback who replaced Woody Harrelson in Wildcats.
Yeah, which is great because Jules almost never comes with the hot references,
No.
right? And again, cute as a button in her little Christmas outfit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just love Jules. Jules Stan all the way. And so, this is like you said, we find out that, the guy that the Krav Maga beat the shit out of and knocked out was their partner because he had come there to attack Santa. So now we have, everything has now come together for us. So we have our reveal, and we didn't get any real flashy reveal. Shawn kind of did it on the spot there, with Jules, so, as we just said, it was the third partner, Moncrief. He's now out of jail and he's seeking revenge on his former partners. He was able to kill Ted. And just as he's about to, kill Carl, you can see him sort of raising his knife there at Santa's village. You see Santa standing in front of the refrigerator about to get a snack. And just as he's about to stab him, it's Lassie. He turns around, gun in his face, badass moment. And so, like, it was a pretty quick reveal. Pretty, it made sense, but I love that they swerved it and it just wasn't a con job episode.
Plus, this really isn't about the crime this episode. It's a little bit, but it's mostly about the Gusters. I also do love the fact that Lassie goes, you're under arrest.
Yeah.
And he just made the naughty list.
Yeah.
Which is like a very badass type of, with that cool dry wit, I could be an action hero. Right. Say cheese, mouse. So it's one of those moments for Lassie. Jules even had the classic, we're not just dealing with con people now. We're dealing with murderers. So they had a couple of nice, Law and Order-esque lines in here. I was going to get that zinger in. Yeah. So I thought the reveal was fine because, again, like we said, it wasn't really about the crime. It was pretty much just, that's a plot device that drives it. That was just kind of like the sprinkling, the bacon bits, if you will, on what was the Shawn
potato of the episode.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So let's let's get into Thundercats Ho. We'll dive into some overall thoughts and get into some of our favorite least favorite moments here. So overall, again, it's an episode. It's a good episode.
At 42 minutes, had cast, had writing, had
directing. Yeah. It was on TV. Episode. It was an episode. I mean, it wasn't terrible. I definitely had my moments where I chuckled a bit. Mm-hmm. But it's not. Yeah, I think I mentioned this earlier. Like, we always talk about, like, season 3 on is where the show, like, really takes off.
Yeah,
and I think maybe, it does. But, like, I'd almost put season 2 ahead of season 3, and I would say, like, Psych's ultimate, like, sweet spot, like, it's killer, middle of the bat order is 4, 5, 6.
Well, I kind of agree on a whole. The average in 2 might be a little bit higher. Because to me, so far, this is the stinker of 3. We had Ghosts, Murder, Anyone Bueller, Daredevils, which I didn't love. I really liked, on second, third, fourth, fifth watch, whatever, that week of The Greatest Adventures of Basic Cable. I liked Disco Didn't Die. I liked that a little bit better. Then you really got kicked into gear with There Might Be Blood, Talk Derby to Me, Gus Walks into a Bank. This one takes a step back, but next week we'll get to it. It's one of the best episodes in season 3. Yeah. And from there, it kind of like takes straight off.
Yeah, and I think that's the struggle I've been having with season 3 so far is like the really good episodes have been like spaced out.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas like season 2, like you get a grouping, like boom, you get Homer, and then you get a couple of base knocks, a couple of outs. And then like Homer, so like it just, I don't know, like
there's overall, a couple of grand slams in season 3 though, because around Christmas time, oddly enough, we'll be doing the Halloween episode.
Yeah, which is hilarious. And then like this season definitely has, I think the staple and the trademark of season 3 is the finale.
Yeah,
you're right. And the episodes leading up to that. So I think I'm just some like negative recency bias where I'm like, oh, okay, these episodes are good, not great kind of thing. And maybe like, I think when we do our recap of season 3, I'll probably have a better appreciation of it as a whole. But like I just like each week I've been like, is season 3 as good as I thought it was? And so this will be this will be a really fun recap to do when we get to it. But what were some of your favorite moments, Billy?
So, I mean, they're pretty much the same as yours here. I mean, the scenes at the Guster house are great. I really like the back and forth body posture. Like, you could instantly see
Yeah.
that they struck the defensive position almost a little bit too over the top, but I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And, the whole thing that I already mentioned with the, a female flea can lay whatever.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Shawn
The
goes,
random
that's a little bit terrifying, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the Gusters, we get this sort of at the end after the wrap up where they're forgiving each other.
Mm-hmm.
I love this little scene here where, like Shawn's absolutely baffled because like he shows up at the Gusters house, Gus greets him and Gus looks pissed. And then he switches on a dime, welcomes him in. Shawn enters, they're all
He's
laughing.
like, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, right.
I feel bad. That's good enough.
Yeah. And so I love this line here from Mrs. Guster where she says, we have a rule here. You can get as mad as you like as long as you spend the same amount of energy working on it afterwards. And then this is where Gus's dad goes, and it took a lot of energy working out the secret that you two were keeping from us.
Yeah. And I also do like he's like, you don't got to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah. But you got to get the hell up out of here. I think it's actually what
you got to get the hell up out of here.
Which I love. I love that Henry, so the reason why
hippie as in he calls one of his friend's wives hippie. Does he mean like 70s hippie or does he mean like she's getting fat? Because that's really bad.
Oh, I always took it as like a hippie as in like a 70s hippie.
Yeah. I never took it like that. Originally, I took it as like, oh, your lady's getting a little hippie. And I was like, ugh, that's real bad.
You thick around the hips?
Yeah, so maybe it is the freaky deaky 70s chick, but because that would make like you might have to sock a guy if he called your wife hippie.
Right. Well, yeah, you call my wife fat, I am gonna take a swing at you. But I always took it as like because I think he made a reference about hippies or Shawn said something about hippies. But the reason why Shawn couldn't stay at his dad's house because he was having his lodge buddies over, and the fact that Henry called one of his buddies' wives a hippie. And it pissed everyone off, and they all left. I just thought that was hilarious. I don't know, that gave me a little chuckle. But I love the gag here, Billy. Whenever there's a Christmas episode, and the competition that Shawn and his dad have, and this scene was great.
Yeah, they go back and forth with the revealing the smaller box inside the smaller box, and then you find out that Henry got him an iPhone, and Shawn at Henry an iPhone case that he just fucking takes.
Yeah. You don't have an iPhone, so I'll just keep this. And I love it because he uses that that becomes a staple of Psych. They
started selling it probably the next day, I would imagine.
Yeah.
One of my friends had it before I even knew. Like, I was like, what the fuck is that? Probably like 15 years ago. I didn't even realize it would become my favorite show of all time.
Did you have any least favorable moments, Billy?
Not really. I mean, on a whole, I thought the episode was good. There wasn't anything that I was like, that was the drizzling shits, as they say. But it was like the highs were high and the rest was mediums. But it wasn't a typical. There was a couple of good chuckles, but there wasn't anything like that's super memorable. You just kind of remember this as the joy / Christmas episode.
Yeah, it was. They leaned into the physical stuff here, and literally and figuratively. But there wasn't anything that irked me. There wasn't like a side story that had nothing to do with the case. I felt like it was shoehorned in there, or like a character acting out of character. Or I mean, the only kind of gripe we had was that the montage scene with the Doors was maybe a smidge too long. But
I didn't love that. So, but it wasn't like get that the hell out of there. It's not like when they do a Lassie and Jules side story and you're tearing your hair out of it.
I'm not tearing my hair out. It just doesn't fit.
You hate it. You can. It's okay to hate stuff, Joe.
I like the side stories with them that pertain to the case. The ones that don't, for me, most of the time, like
I don't know. You seem to eat up the side story with Lassie and what's her name.
Oh yeah, but that had Gooch.
Gooch.
Come on, who doesn't love the Gooch? We're fans of the Gooch, Billy. We're fans of the Gooch.
Huge.
Favorite character, Gusters, all of them. And it looks like you had Mama Gusters.
Yeah,
So
I'll echo the sentiments there. I just thought her performance inside that
yeah,
thing with the and even with like the oh no he didn't talking
yeah,
about her gambling problem, like
yeah,
she still
yeah.
good. And the best part about her is I believe she debuts in season 2 and she's in season 8, so she hangs around as
Right.
Gus's mom. I don't think you see her too much more. Maybe one or two other times before the season 8 where they kind of did the whole what's Mac's favorite movie there, Inception thing.
Oh,
Uh,
right.
but yeah, she hung around, so that was great. I loved her in this small dabble of a role, but it was good.
Yeah. I mean, she's a great actress, and I'm glad that she stuck with the character for a little continuity. For the show, and seemed like she had fun doing it. You could tell because her performances were fantastic every time. So let's get to a couple of lines that we missed that kind of tickled our funny bone a bit. Uh, so I love when we first get introduced to Joy here. So Gus sort of mentions like he doesn't see his sister a whole lot because she's always working and she doesn't live in Santa Barbara, and her job takes up all her time, and and Shawn just replies, all that time away from home just to work, precisely why I didn't go to law school. It's like there's a perfect Shawn line.
Yeah, that and the fact of school.
Yeah, right. And then fool us thrice makes an ass out of you and me. I love that he jumbled up all those phrases there. That was a good one. And then let's see, give me 10 on oh yeah. So when they're at the bookie,
Yeah.
he goes, give me 10 on do not resuscitate in the 5th race. I don't have any cash, but give me your bank account and I'll make sure to deposit into your PayPal account.
I love that. I also love it's not a vice, a momentary lapse in justice. Maybe a Jones.
Yeah, maybe just. I'm not a parent nor an uncle or even a godfather. Children are sticky, and he is fucking dead on.
They are.
Nothing gives me more anxiety than watching kids eat ice cream. It is
Yeah.
gross. It is sticky. It is melty. I just no, thank you. No, thank you. We get a couple of lines from Gus here, Billy. What are they?
Yeah, I love the you can't touche yourself. That's a good one. We got the I've never been kicked out of Sandwich Village before. I'm the one to be upset here. Everyone's been lying to me.
Yeah.
So he played a great little role in there. We already got to Lassie's. I love the you're under arrest and on the naughty list.
Yeah, Henry. Well, fooling around your best friend's sister wasn't your brightest idea. And we said the Chief Vic one already, and then Mr. Guster, as for your sleeping arrangement, you don't have to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. The way he delivers that line, you know what? On second, I think I liked him as Gus's dad. I thought he did a really good job.
I hear you, son. I hear you.
I hear
still
you.
know Ernie.
He's still no Ernie, but they did do a good job recasting him.
And on the whole, I like this guy as an actor better. But I just thought the other guy fit perfectly.
Yeah, he really did.
This guy projected too much of a manly force to be Gus's dad.
Yeah, because he had some sass to him,
Yeah.
He had some sass, and the Gusters don't strike us as, men of gumption and sass. They're just like, plain Jane, vanilla ice cream, mashed potatoes, But were there any running gags? We got the the bits there where where Gus and Joy know the random facts of info. Were there any other running gags that I might have missed, Billy?
Not really. I mean, we got the nickname Scrooge Jones, but that was pretty much it. This one wasn't super gag heavy. It does create a gag going forward of the Shawn slept with Gus's sister.
Yep.
So you do have that little nugget in there.
The pineapple. We actually get a physical pineapple again.
Yeah, pulled right out of the beginning, right out of the box. Aloha. I mean, I still like whenever I go over to somebody's new house, I bring a pineapple. So
they're gonna think you're a swinger, Billy.
No, that's upside down.
Oh, yeah, right. So my grandparents, their where their doorbell is, it's a pineapple. I'm like, oh God, please be right side up.
It's upside down. Yeah, it's upside down.
Please
or if they go shopping and they put it in the top part of their cart.
Yeah. I want to do that just as an experiment and just see what happens. Like next time I go to Wegmans, just put.
You got to be with your wife though.
Oh, you have to? Like you can't.
Well, you don't have to be, but you'll look pretty creepy as a single.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Like, oh, that guy, he's just in it for the action. He's not
Yeah.
in it for the
He doesn't have anything to
companionship.
offer. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything to offer.
He doesn't have the other partner. So if you do it with your wife, don't tell her.
Yeah. Oh my god, that'd be fucking hilarious, wouldn't it?
Somebody approaches the two of you.
Oh, I'm gonna have to do that. That's fucking tremendous. Henry, Father of the Year moment. He gives some pretty sage advice here, and he's actually pretty, sympathetic to Shawn, because I think Henry knows that Gus's sister is a fine looking lass, and I don't blame you. You still shouldn't have done it, but like, you got to make it right, and so Henry's good. Oh, we didn't mention this off the rip. The Henry hair. I thought it was some pretty decent lettuce.
I didn't love it. It was a little bit better. It was flowing. It was early morning though, so I don't really blame him. But you go back to season 1 and the way he has it like slicked back tight. I mean, there was a guy.
He used to be a piece of shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Slick back hair, white bathing suit. But yeah, I didn't love it, but it was early morning hair. I think the good Henry hair is gone. Like, I think it was only in the first few seasons they're like, all right, we can't make him look, Roger Dornish too much here.
I would love to know if that was done on purpose. Like, let's purposely, because he's a bald
100%,
man.
100%.
Let's botch this purposely, But I didn't think it was half bad.
All right. Fair enough.
So yeah, this score is way too high. This score should not. Oh, before we get to the score, the obscure references. We had the Woody Harrelson Wildcats one, and then we had a great slapping of a woman gag. Like,
Rhett Butler.
Jesus Christ's sake! It was a Rhett Butler slap, not an Ike Turner slap. So referencing Gone with the Wind, and obviously Ike Turner being a scumbag. But that was just like, I don't know. I don't want to condone such, but there was a funny retort by Shawn Dunn, like a good juxtaposition of two people slapping someone else in the face. But rating out of 8 pineapples, Billy, what did you give this one?
I gave it a 5.9, so that's about as low as you want to go, really, for a psych episode. It was good. Wasn't great.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 6. It was. Again, it was an episode. I chuckled a few times, but this is not one that I quote immensely. You remember it because it had Gus's sister. You remember it because Shawn slept with Gus's sister, and that really is the main takeaway. I might start saying you got to get the hell up out of here a little bit more often, because I love the way that line was delivered. But overall, good, not great. Yeah. So, Billy, I know you got a Madden game to get to, but come on, son.
Come on, son. It's not Madden. I got another podcast, actually.
Oh, that's right.
Madden's been moved to tomorrow, so if you want to stay on the airwaves here with me, I'll be back at about 10 o'clock talking Scream 2. But for right now, we got next week's episode, which is 6 Feet Under the Sea, Shabby. Some great moments here. I can already think of them spouting off at the top of my head when they give Thessalion.
Yeah. And I just love the two of them whenever they try to break into places and it fails miserably. We get a great moment of that in this episode. This one I haven't watched in a long time. I mean, I know it's a good one. I just haven't watched it in a long time. So I'm looking forward to watching this one, Billy. With that, where can the people find us?
They can find us just about anywhere. I believe Rossi was even on Dork last night, so go to the Facebook page, type in hashtag DorkSharedGooniverse on there, and then you'll be able to get all of the pods there. CMC, Change My Mind is the same thing. TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read. PCP, Pop Culture Pile Driver. Mac and Goo. You got, I think the What If podcast is finally done. The streamers, you got yourself, Backcracker, you got Shime Time, and you got Arvon D. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's all, Billy.
All right.
Yeah, good job. So until next week, people, wait for it.
Frank says hi.